Week 7 of the NFL has been and gone, so we have a new draft order. Unless, of course, you're the New York Jets who've been picking first overall for the last 5 weeks. But we have potentially a new QB1. The Dolphins are now picking second overall, and they're firmly in the quarterback market. The Saints and Titans are picking at 3 and 4 respectively, and they don't need a quarterback, but they desperately need difference-making talent. The 2 and 5 Cardinals, after losing 5 on the bounce, are now picking inside the top 10. And the Kyler Murray era might be over. And the Texans, my Houston Texans, have also entered the top 10, a blessing and a curse for someone that loves the draft, but also wants to see their team actually do well. All of this and more is what we're going to be getting into in this top 10 mock draft today. There's going to be no trades just yet. It's still too early to do trades. It's only going to be a top 10 as the order is changing so much. And there's going to be some new players inside this top 10 with some big performances in college football this week and last week. And before we get into it, make sure you like the video, make sure you comment and subscribe. It is a free and easy way to help out the channel. Really helps me push these videos out to other NFL draft fans. Let me know in the comments, what would you do with all these picks? Would you take someone different? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? I want to hear it all down below. I want to see you like and subscribe. But let's get into it. We have the Jets, the New York Jets picking first overall. And this just has to be a quarterback. I have now seen the Jets play very closely in the last 2 weeks. I saw them play in London last week, and I was in the TalkSport studios covering the Jets-Panthers games specifically. And, well, both are pretty tough watches. And that is not entirely down to, but in part down to Justin Fields as the quarterback. And so we're going to have a new QB1 this week, someone who's played very well in college in the last 2 weeks, someone I didn't include in my last top 10 mock draft, and that is going to be Ty Simpson from Alabama. He is partially the reason why Alabama are as good as they are, in a kind of twisted similarity to how Justin Fields is partially the reason for why the Jets are as bad as they are. Bama have beaten 4 ranked teams in the last 4 weeks. Georgia, Vandy, Missouri, Tennessee, with all of them having legit performances from Simpson. His biggest strength is that he is just so smart. He's able to read and decipher defenses pre-snap and then set or change the protection to nullify the pressure or nullify the blitz. There's a play versus Missouri where you can see him realize the Missouri defensive line have quite a funky look. They've overloaded one side of the offensive line. He then shifts the pressure to pick that up. He motions in the tight end to pick up the extra blitzer, gives a bit of a hand signal to the tight end as he's moving across to show him who to block. And he's just soaking it all in at Bama. Yes, he's only a one-year starter, which is something I am a bit hesitant of now, especially with how the NFL is looking with developing quarterbacks, someone like Anthony Richardson, for example. And obviously the list goes well beyond that. Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith, right? There's so many reclamation projects because teams just fail quarterbacks, especially ones that aren't that experienced. But the reason why I'm kind of coming round to Ty Simpson as a potential QB1 is because he is only a one-year starter, but he's been at Bama for 4 years now. He's been soaking it all in for the last 4 years. And I think despite his true game experience, you can see his general experience, I would say. He's got good zip on the ball. He's not got elite arm talent, but it's definitely good enough for the NFL. He's got great ball placement. What I love about Ty Simpson, again, that smartness. He can see when a defender's playing man coverage, so he knows he can rip it into a really tight window because the defender's not going to have his eyes on the ball. It's small things like that that really, really matter, I think, and that really turn up in the NFL. He has NFL level anticipation. He shows creativity out of structure. And what I like about Simpson as well is that he makes out of structure almost look in structure. He sets his feet always. It still looks so smooth, looks so clean, looks so thought through. The Jets need a quarterback, and I think that it's still early days. Still a lot of football to be played, both in the NFL and in college. But Ty Simpson, I think he's got the shout to be QB1 in a murky QB1 race, I would say. The Dolphins are also going to firmly be in the quarterback market, I believe. It is Tua Tagovailoa, if you excuse the pun, for the Miami Dolphins and Tua. And I think you kind of have to go for the anti-Tua here. This has to be a quarterback as well, right? I do appreciate that the Dolphins have quite a lot of needs, let's say. I think the offensive line is really not good. I think they need more wide receivers. They could potentially trade Jalen Waddle. But if you're picking 2, you're either trading down or you're drafting a quarterback, realistically, depending on how this draft shakes out. You could take Rueben Bain and kind of get yourself some juice defensively. But I think that this team needs a quarterback. especially with Tua just not really playing. And I'm going to take the anti-quarterback, the anti-Tua, essentially, in LaNorris Sellers, the quarterback from South Carolina. He is the anti-Tua because, well, he is basically everything that Tua is not. He is huge, he's athletic, he's quick, he's strong, he's big. Insert good adjective here to describe an athlete, and LaNorris Sellers is exactly that, and then some. The physical tools are undeniable, and he's a palate cleanser, I think, after seeing Tua, who has good anticipation and has had some success in that offense, but he does not have a rocket for an arm. He isn't a physical specimen by any means, and I just kind of think, as a fan, I'd want to move away from what has clearly not worked and just try something different. It could be Fernando Mendoza at this position, but he's not similar to Tua, but Sellers is definitely more different, is what I would say. He has elite sack evasion potential. He can break out of dead to right sacks from defensive tackles like Peter Woods, who we'll talk about later in this mock draft, spoiler alert, but he's a defensive tackle who was very, very good last year, and it should have been a Peter Woods highlight, and instead LaNorris Sellers breaks out of it and picks up an explosive play on the ground with his legs. He's that kind of guy. He's got insane arm strength. He's an insane athlete. He has insane potential. But potential is the key word there with Sellers because it is not yet realised. I think that he is the ultimate what-if quarterback right now. What if he puts it all together? What if he was better than he looks at South Carolina? What if he had a better offensive line? You can insert the excuses here. And I think with Sellers, he might go back to school. It depends what he's going to get back from draft scouts, but I'd quite like him to almost go to somewhere like Miami and see what he's got. But I mean, the physical tools are undeniable. It's just the passing accuracy. He is inaccurate all three levels of the field. He makes bad decisions. He has to see a receiver open to throw him. He really is very much like Anthony Richardson. And I'm going to say that so many times this draft cycle, but it paints a good picture. He's more experienced, but in that same way that Richardson has all the tools and just couldn't really put it together almost between the years in terms of the quarterbacking. That's how he got injured. That's how he lost his job, Anthony Richardson, because he couldn't set the protection on a free rusher. Small things like that really clearly matter. That's why Richardson, as I said, is partially on the bench at the moment. I think Sellers has great potential. He wouldn't be who I would pick here, but I think as a palate cleanser from Tua, it makes sense. The Saints at 3, as I said, don't need a quarterback. I am firmly in on Spencer Rattler right now. I think he's played really well. He had a pretty ugly outing against the Bears this week. 6 turnover-worthy plays, 3 interceptions. It happens. I hope this doesn't become a trend for him. I want to see him bounce back from that and play good football because he is a 5th rounder. There is a 2nd round quarterback waiting on the bench. He does have a short leash. If he strings together 3-4 of these performances, I think he will get benched. So I want to see Spencer Rattler turn it around. He's shown he can play at a high level, not really high or very high, but a high level. I like what I've seen from him on a not great Saints offense and a not great Saints team overall. And really that's the problem with the Saints. They are bereft of talent, I would say. And the player that's going to change all that is Rueben Bain Jr., the edge rusher from Miami. He is, in my opinion, the best player in college football right now, pound for pound, that is draft eligible, at least. He has 31 pressures and 3 sacks, and offenses have to entirely change their game plan when they play Miami to avoid Rueben Bain Jr. ruining their offensive game plan, which is what he did against Notre Dame. Absolutely wrecked the Notre Dame offense. When they, in their first loss of the season, Miami, when they played Louisville, they had to get the ball out 2.2 seconds. Every single time the quarterback had to get rid of the ball, because if you hold on to the ball for longer than 2.5 seconds, Rueben Bain Jr. is going to sack you and therefore stall your offense, ruin your game plan. He forced Notre Dame, as I said, to throw screens all game. He had 4 pressures in that game. He's really good in the run game as well. He's not an elite athlete. He is not a Myles Garrett, say, for example. High bar, I know, but he's not a Myles Garrett. I don't even really... I mean, maybe he is in the realm of an Aiden Hutchinson. You know, not like a physical freak, but definitely a very good athlete. But not that top tier is the only kind of drawback. But as I said, he's the best non-quarterback in this class at the moment in this draft. He's going to make the Saints a lot better. The Titans. Bad year, I think, to need offensive line. That's really what the Titans need, I think. For me, personally, it is, cornerback definitely, which is what PFF have here. But I think offensive line and wide receiver. I think you want to help out your young quarterback. Wide receiver, I'm happy to get that later in this draft class. I think it's a very good, deep class. There'll be some guys that will go in the first, maybe inside the top 10 even. But I feel comfortable addressing that in the 2nd round. this has to be offensive tackle. It has to be. And yes, again, it's a bad year to need offensive tackle. Spencer Fano taking his licks. Jennings Dunker, people prefer him at guard. Mauigoa, people prefer him at guard. Caden Proctor, he's rounding into form, finally, but it hasn't been the season we'd hoped, at least for the first half, from him. Caleb Lomu, also the other tackle from Utah, he's not looked particularly good, and he was worse than Fano anyway. This does have to be Spencer Fano, though. He's the only offensive tackle that I'd feel remotely comfortable taking inside the top 10. I'd ideally take him later, but the Titans really can't. Beggars can't be choosers. They're not really in a position, I think, to turn down the best tackle in this class. Again, it's not a, Penei Sewell. It's not who's the Chargers? Whoever the Chargers offensive tackle was a few years ago. It's not that kind of tackle class, far, far from it. But Fano's a good player. He's got good movement skills. He's quick. He's fluid. He's a good athlete. I just think you've got to invest in Cam Ward. Yes, it's a bit early for Fano, but ultimately think of it like an investment into the quarterback you spent the first overall pick on. I think it kind of makes sense. The Ravens, picking at 5. Again, are they ever going to leave the top 10? I kind of hope they don't, because it's great fun picking for them. They just need a dude, I think. I've gone with Rueben Bain because he's a dude on defense, and that's also what the Ravens need specifically along the defensive line. But the Ravens need a dude at wide receiver. And as much as I like Makai Lemon, he's my wide receiver 1. The dude, I think, or the closest thing to it, in my opinion, and also that kind of has a bit of a crossover with Zay Flowers, I think, in skill sets and play style. The dude then is Jordan Tyson. And I think he is going to make that offense a lot better. He could be the wide receiver 1A to Zay Flowers' wide receiver 1B. He's 6'2", 210 pounds. He's got great movement skills. He's had 4 100-yard games this year. He's better after the catch this year than he was last year. He's put weight on. He's still got that movement skills ability. It's not a calling card, that yards after the catch ability, but he can do it. He can make fantastic circus grabs. He can go up and get it. He's a fantastic separator. He's a good route runner. You need to make this offense scary, and it can't just be Lamar Jackson. I think with Flowers and Tyson, that receiving core is suddenly a hell of a lot better than it is with Flowers, the exhumed corpse of DeAndre Hopkins, and Rashad Bateman, who we are all waiting to break out and who honestly isn't going to. So it makes that Ravens team a hell of a lot better, I think. The Cleveland Browns, mess of a franchise. Absolute mess of a franchise. They are picking, at the moment at least, inside the top 6 again. I feel like in my memory as a fan, they've picked outside of the top 10 maybe twice. It's crazy how consistently bad they are in a league and a sport which is really set up for you to not consistently be bad with the draft, for example. And look, this team did look good against Miami. Not much of competition, considering how Miami looked, but Quinshaw Judkins, he looks like the real deal. There are, obviously Myles Garrett's fantastic. Obviously the defense is really good, but the offense is not good, to call a spade. I'm kind of happy to kick the quarterback can down the road here, though. I don't think Gabriel is the long-term answer. I certainly don't think Shedeur Sanders is the long-term option either. But I feel like putting another quarterback in this team in its current state, specifically offensively, feels like putting the cart before the horse. I think we need to build this team up a little bit more with some talent to really give any quarterback a chance of showing something, because this is Cleveland. Even when things were going well for someone like Baker Mayfield, they suddenly didn't. So I'm going to build this team up. We've got 2 first-round picks this year. We've got 2 first-round picks next year. I'm not going to draft a quarterback in this draft, or at least not in the first round. Definitely not in the first round. Maybe take a swing on a UDFA Drew Aller. Am I cooking? I think, though, that this has to be a wide receiver then, because offensive line is a bit of a reach for me here. Fano's already gone. He's the only one I'm taking inside the top 10. They need tackle. They do need guard as well, but I think we can get a guard later in the draft. I'm going to take Makai Lemon, the wide receiver from USC. He is my wide receiver 1 currently. My big board is taking shape. I'm going to do a big board update video in a few weeks, maybe definitely within the next 3 weeks. So make sure you subscribe to not miss that. And if you haven't already, like the video, comment, all those good stuff. But Lemon is my wide receiver 1 on my board. And I think that he is the best draft eligible wide receiver right now. I think him and Tyson are right there together. For what it's worth, on the big board that I had a few weeks ago, they were literally 1A, 1B, one behind the other. I had Lemon, I think, at 13, Tyson at 14. They're both higher than that now, for what it's worth, or will be higher than that now. I think that he's got great speed. I think he's quick, shifty. He can make big catches for a small guy. I just think he adds some juice. I think he's basically, maybe this is a good comp. I'm not sure. I haven't got my comps nailed, but someone like a Jerry Jeudy, who I know is on the Browns already, but Jerry Jeudy is not the Jerry Jeudy that he was in college, if we're, putting it fairly diplomatically. I do quite like the idea of Mansour Delane here. He's my CB1. He'd be a really good addition to the defense. Mauigoa would be my next offensive tackle, but it's just early, I think, at 6 to take what is essentially going to be a guard with maybe some swing tackle ability. Lemon's got 758 yards through 8 weeks. He did have a bit of trouble against Notre Dame's cornerbacks this week. Something to keep a note of. I'll dive into that tape before the draft a bit more. But this offense needs some juice, and I think Lemon has the juice. Him and Judkins, they can carry this torch for the young, hopefully, new Browns team going forward. The Las Vegas Raiders. Lots of options here. I am not going to get rid of Geno Smith. I think that we've seen enough of Geno Smith to know that he is a good quarterback. Is he playing like a good quarterback right now? No, he's not. But you've got Geno Smith. Not sure exactly the details of his contract, but I imagine you're paying him a decent amount of money. And you've got Pete Carroll, who is the oldest head coach in the league. You don't really have the time to invest in a rookie quarterback, personally. And I think that Geno Smith can turn it around. I just think the Raiders are not a good team right now. Could go offensive line. Again, it's not really there. And also, like I said, the Raiders don't have the time to wait for an offensive lineman to develop. Got to address that in free agency. I'm going to go then defensively, and I'm going to take Peter Woods, who, yes, is not having a good season. Let's make no mistake about it. He only has an 11% pass rush win rate. He's only got 9 pressures and 2 sacks on the season. He had 0 pressures this weekend against SMU on 37 pass rush snaps. SMU are not Alabama. They do not have a nation-leading offensive line. Peter Woods is a talent that I would have hoped to have racked up at least 1 pressure against the SMU offensive line, and he didn't. It's a season to forget for Clemson. It's a season to forget for Peter Woods. But I do think that he is very talented. It was on his tape. It was all over his tape last year. In fact, he was my number 1 player going into this year. That's how talented I thought he was and would show that he would be. He is that defensive tackle, or was previously, that I thought he could kind of build a defense around. Do I think he's that now, or am I as confident in that as I was before? No, I'm not. But I think there does come a point where it can't just be a recency bias. You have to trust the entire body of work. Peter Woods has got some good tape out there. It's not recent, which is what you prefer, but it is out there. He has the potential at his high end to be that defensive tackle game breaker, a la Quinnen Williams. High praise. Let's hope he realizes it. The Giants, an exciting team. They recently just gave up 33 points in the fourth quarter to the Denver Broncos to lose that game, which must sting for Giants fans. But, this team is exciting, dare I say, led by, obviously, Jackson Dart, led by his kind of pit bull running back in Cam Scatterboo. Obviously, I'm not taking a quarterback. I think that Jackson Dart has actually played much better than I thought he would. So we'll keep Dart, obviously. I went wide receiver last week, and people didn't like it for the Giants. I went Carnell Tate, who, again, by the way, had a fantastic catch, another big game. But look, I'm happy to say it's a bit early for Carnell Tate at 8, but I think he's a first-round player. I'm going to go then with Caleb Downs, the defensive mastermind, I would describe him as, from Ohio State. Technically plays safety, but man, my God, the game IQ that Caleb Downs has is second only to Travis Hunter in terms of players that I've scouted and watched tape of, because you can just see them being genuinely like 2 steps ahead. They know what the quarterback is thinking before the quarterback even thinks it. Against Arch Manning in the season opener, which feels like a lifetime ago now, but Caleb Downs was genuinely manipulating Arch Manning with his body language. He would open up his hips to pretend like he's playing a deep half, and then wouldn't, and then that just meant that Arch Manning wouldn't even look over to that half because he didn't even want to try and test Caleb Downs. That's the kind of player that Downs is, and that's the kind of player that Downs knows he is. It's that knowledge that he strikes the fear into the hearts of quarterbacks, not the other way around. And for a safety, my God, is that rare. He just he's like a rover, basically. A safety, he's more, his closest comp, I would say, is Buda Baker, in the sense that you kind of want him playing like kind of 8 yards off, like behind the linebackers, in front of where the deep safety goes, and just kind of let him get the ball, really. And that needs to be his role. If you've got Caleb Downs, like, patrolling the secondary, and you've got this Giants defensive line rushing the passer, that is a really good defense on paper. Might need to get a new defensive coordinator. We'll see about that further down the line. But talent-wise, wow, that is legit. And I think you kind of have to take the talent at some point. Obviously, positional value comes into it. I think this is the earliest that I could see Caleb Downs going, even in a relatively weaker class, because are you going to spend a top 5 pick on a safety? Probably not. Top 8? If you're the Giants, and this is how the draft board falls, and you can't get offensive line, I like it. The Cardinals. I think this is the end of the road for Kyler Murray. The fact that this team is looking better and playing better with Jacoby Brissett, who I think is a capable quarterback, don't get me wrong, but he is not a top 15 starter, not even a top 20 starter, right? Let's make no mistake about it. The fact that it's looking better under Jacoby Brissett isn't because he's more talented than Kyler Murray. It's because he's a better passer than Kyler Murray. It's because he plays better in certain downs than Kyler Murray. This team was cooking on third down against the Packers. That's why they kept this game close. Jacoby Brissett was making plays on third down like it was going out of fashion. Kyler Murray struggles on those third downs. He can't stay in the pocket. He's not comfortable picking up yards with his legs, even though he's a great athlete. It's a bad realization for me as a Kyler Murray truther that I just don't know about Kyler Murray anymore. And I think that the Cardinals, if they're picking in this range and a quarterback falls to them, I think you've got to take the punt. I think that Gannon, the head coach, is it Gannon? Whoever the head coach is, Eagles' old defensive coordinator, is also thinking, I can't keep tying my coaching career to Kyler Murray, who is often either not healthy, or if he is healthy, they're not playing that well. You've got a great tight end. You've got great wide receivers. The offense should be better than it is. So I'm going to take a quarterback here, and it's going to be my current, with an asterisk because it's all kind of subject to change, my current QB1 in Fernando Mendoza. I think he just has that dog in him. He will make a throw with a defender in his grill. He's got that kind of Baker Mayfield line of thinking to him, basically. He just plays, not in the sense that he's got that swagger that Baker Mayfield has, but more in the sense that I think that the whole sport is about mentality. It is about how bad do you want it. Someone like Rueben Bain Jr. has it. You just can't coach it. He's got that Aiden Hutchinson, Myles Garrett, just TJ Watt, unstoppable motor just in his head. He always wants to get to the quarterback. Caleb Downs obviously has it. And Fernando Mendoza has it as well. And I just think it's those intangibles that matter a lot more than I've previously appreciated at quarterback. Previously, it's been, do you have a good arm? Yes. Are you athletic? Yes. Sellers is someone who I previously would have loved. I don't love Sellers anymore. But Fernando Mendoza, or at least the quarterback that he currently is, not the quarterback that he might be. But Fernando Mendoza played a great game against Oregon. He's leading undefeated Indiana to potentially a championship game, potentially, definitely at this point, a playoff berth. And it's because he's playing so damn well. He's 6'5", 225 pounds. He's got it between the ears. He is, got good arm talent, not a rocket arm, but it is strong enough. He can make the throws. It just kind of makes sense now, I think, for the Cardinals to move on from Kyler Murray, a quarterback that I have loved and still kind of do love. I always have a soft spot for him, but it's kind of coming to the end of the line with him in Arizona. And last, but certainly not least, my Houston Texans. This is a real head versus heart moment for me here, because I would love to take Jeremiah Love, the running back from Notre Dame. However, that's what my head wants. My head? No, that's what my heart wants, is Jeremiah Love. My head, though, is saying, look at the Raiders and Look at the fact they have Ashton Genty, but they've put him behind a terrible offensive line, and he is also terrible now. It is pointless to put Jeremiah Love behind this current iteration of the Texans offensive line, which, make no mistake about it, is absolutely goddamn dreadful. So it has to be offensive line. It had to be offensive line in the first round last year, by the way, for what it's worth, but we didn't do it. So who knows what we'll do this time. I'm not a big Jennings Duncan guy, at least for the time being. I'm going to draft Francis Mauigoa from Miami as my kind of OT2, but I guess he's more of a guard. I think he's going to be a guard, and taking a guard at 10 is so dark. But we are in a position now where we simply cannot not draft an offensive lineman. CJ Stroud is a pocket passing quarterback who needs to have a pocket to pass from. And at the moment, he doesn't. Our run game is suffering. Our offense is bad. Defense is all there. Brilliant, great, fantastic. I believe in CJ Stroud. I think he is a good quarterback in a bad situation. And we are cycling through offensive coordinators right now. And I don't think they're perfect, but I also don't think they are the problem. There's only so much you can do with a terrible offensive line. Hopefully, Francis Mauigoa fixes it somewhat. We've still got at least 3 other positions we need to fill for me to feel comfortable about this offensive line. But you can only do it one pick at a time. So here is my top 10. At number 1 overall, the Jets took Ty Simpson, the quarterback from Alabama. At 2, the Dolphins took LaNorris Sellers, the quarterback from South Carolina. At 3, the Saints took Rueben Bain Jr. At 4, the Titans took Spencer Fano to give Cam Ward just that little bit more of a pocket, a bit more protection. At 5, the Ravens took Jordan Tyson, the wide receiver from Arizona State. At 6, the Browns took Makai Lemon, back-to-back receivers in the top 10 there. At 7, the Raiders took Peter Woods, the defensive tackle from Clemson. Need to see more from Peter Woods. Really need to see more from Peter Woods. At 8, the Giants took Caleb Downs, maybe the most talented, maybe one of the best players in this class, but positional value has to factor in. At 9, Fernando Mendoza went to the Cardinals to replace Kyler Murray. At 10, the Texans took Francis Mauigoa, the tackle/guard from Miami. That's my top 10. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you agree or disagree with any of these picks? Would you have taken someone else? Is there someone that I've not even spoken about that should go in the top 10? Maybe Dante Moore should have been in the top 10. Let me know what you think down below. If you haven't already, make sure you like the video. Again, it is such a free way, but it's also such a helpful way for you to help out the channel. It is free, and please do subscribe to not miss any draft content. There is going to be weekly draft content from here on out, positional rankings, more mock drafts, team needs, best fits, you name it. It's all coming thick and fast. Subscribe to not miss a video. But I've been your host, Dom Corbs. This has been Corbs NFL. I'll see you on the next video.